Okay, so this is probably going to be rambly as all hell, but I'm just so baffled by what's been happening in like the last 24 hours that I gotta get some things off my chest. I got a lot of questions to ask, and if anyone, excuse me, if anyone can give any kind of an explanation, give any kind of an answer, point me in the right direction, like, that would be super, because I'm so confused and baffled, and it's all so weird. So, in general, this is about authors, writers reacting really badly to negative reviews of their books or stories. In the last few months, it's mainly coming up on like BookTok and stuff, but we've all heard of some author doing this. An author will, or a reviewer will say they didn't like a book, they'll give it 1 star, whatever, and then an author will just take it upon themselves to lose their marbles and like attack the reviewer on social media, go ballistic, make posts about it, and just honestly tank their career before it even got started sometimes. And I kept thinking, like, okay, that's the second one I've seen, that's the third one I've seen, like, and these all kind of go viral in book spaces at least, so like, we should all know by now, it's not a good idea to do that. Like, even if you hate reviewers, if you hate any negative reviews or whatever, we must know at this point to keep it in like your private circle, you know, complain to your friends and family and stuff, but don't be going posting online, putting everything public, don't be going attacking these people, because on a very selfish level, never mind that it's just wrong and bizarre to do, it's not good for you, it's not good for your reputation, for your career. You are like putting up walls between yourself and potential readers, and even readers who've enjoyed you before are not going to like you anymore. So I don't get why they do it. And of course, we've just had a brand new one, but this one has taken it to like new heights of batshit craziness. I'll for anyone who hasn't been on BookTok in the last like 2 days, I will just do a brief run through. If you want to skip over this like little drama bit, I'll put a timestamp up. But basically, there's a book reviewer. She has a BookTok and she reviews all kinds of books, and her name is Hayley. And last year in December, she posted a video, I think it was just on TikTok, talking about the worst reads she had had of last year. And in that video, she included a book. I'm not even sure which book it was, but it was a book by an author called Matt Shaw, who writes extreme horror, and judging by his accent, he's from England. And she included his book in that. She said she didn't like it. Standard. She's now just learned recently, I think, that like a couple of days after she posted that video, he was posting in this Facebook group he had with other male authors, other extreme horror authors, just complaining about her, calling her names, intentionally spelling her name wrong, because that'll really get her. All this shit, just like posting about her, and they were all like, you know, making jokes about her, and they were all kind of joking along with it. If it had stopped there, you know, right. But he didn't stop there, because in March of this year, 2023, he published a book, and he dedicated the book to her. Not just by saying, you know, this book is dedicated to Hayley, the reviewer, or whatever. I'll put up his dedication here. So he dedicated the book to her in a long dedication, because he was royally pissed that she said he didn't write women well, and he compared her to a Nazi. I'm not exactly sure what she said about his book, but I'll be honest, I'm going to assume here that she didn't in fact murder millions of people, so I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say she's probably not a Nazi. You know, the age-old standard of, like, if you call someone a Nazi on the internet, like, you've lost the argument, you know, unless they're literally that. He also calls her a trout, which really cements in my head that he is a Brit. That's a very Brit insult to give. Strange. So the book that he dedicated to her was supposed to be like a tongue-in-cheek, like, erotica thing, like him intentionally writing women bad as a joke. Okay. I'm not sure if it was before or after Haley, the reviewer, found out that he had dedicated this book to her, because I think she only found out about it recently. But her and another reviewer had made a video, I think it was actually a 2-part video, where they talked about extreme horror and they talked about the good parts and the bad parts, and obviously everyone just focused on the bad parts. And they did mention misogyny in extreme horror. Don't know what world anyone else is living in. There is misogyny in extreme horror. There is misogyny in all horror. There's misogyny in all genres. I would go so far as to say there is misogyny in almost every art form that we can make, because it's just everywhere. There's forms of it everywhere. And when you're talking about a subgenre of horror where it is extreme and everything is taken to the extreme, everything like gets amplified. So there is more violence, there is more gore, there is more explicit sexual assault, mostly on women and children, and like that shouldn't be a shock to anyone, particularly not extreme horror writers. It's strange. But he did not like, this guy Matt Shaw did not like that she was talking about misogyny and extreme horror. I did see a video of his on TikTok where he says, oh, there's no misogyny in extreme horror. The extreme horror authors I know are the loveliest guys you'll ever meet. Yeah, I'm sure there are. To you. Because you're not a woman. I am not in any way saying that all extreme horror authors or all anyone, I'm not saying that all men are misogynist, but I'm saying that, like, of course you're not gonna see misogyny because you are not the target of that. Like, what are you talking about? Also, his response to not liking being called out potentially on misogyny. I haven't read any of his work. I can't speak to whether or not he's a good writer of women or not. I do think he has some weird inner thinking. His response to that was to become weirdly obsessed with this one reviewer who did not like his book. I saw in one of her videos that she made, she says that he keeps calling her Amber for some reason, and I thought that was odd until someone pointed out that it's because he calls all women that he doesn't like Amber, as in Amber Heard, related to Johnny Depp, and he has also in the past written a complete like novel or novella called Her Name Was Amber, and he has stated specifically that it is about, and it is basically his fantasy of torturing Amber Heard to death. And you can have whatever opinions you want on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and that whole thing, whatever. But to go that far, to write a full book, a full story that you write and you redraft and you edit and you publish and you put your name on it, and then you make videos on your YouTube channel talking about how it is explicitly about Amber Heard, that is misogyny. Like that is taking it all those extra steps further. And then, like, okay, you really don't like Amber Heard. A completely unrelated, different woman says she doesn't like your books. You start calling her Amber? Is that really... Are you equating those two things? Like, if you really believe that, like, Amber Heard was the villain in that story, do you think that's the same level as someone saying, I don't like this book? Because they're... It's weird. So this guy... He's lost the plot, really, and it's so strange to me. One of the other things about this is that the Facebook group that he had, or he was in, apparently a lot of other authors, male authors, were in it as well, and they were commenting and liking on these posts and stuff, and they just thought it was a good lark, a good joke. And it's just really bizarre. It's really weird. And now there's a lot of people saying that they're on his side and stuff in this issue on BookTok, either, you know, reviewers, fans of his, or other writers. There are a lot saying that they are not, and that it's weird and bizarre, and it is. Some people are sort of saying that she is going over the top because she has stated that she's like wary of this guy now, and of course you would be. Like, this is obsessive behavior, this is stalker behavior. I mean, this guy lives in a... I don't know where he lives, but based on his accent, for now I'm just going to assume he lives in England and she lives in America. He has become so obsessed with this one person who wrote one... She didn't even write a review, she just mentioned it in a video. She hasn't written it on Goodreads or anything like that. He's become so obsessed with her. He dedicated a book to her. He's like calling her all these names. He's like trying so hard to get under her skin the way that she has seemingly gotten under his without trying at all. That is the type of behavior that leads to, like, violence, that can potentially lead to, like, violence and stalking. And someone else mentioned that apparently there was a reviewer who, an author who, like, drove 5,000 miles to like violently attack a reviewer. I think it might have been a teenage girl. He like hit her over the head with a wine bottle. I'll try and find that story if I can. So it started off with just authors and writers reacting negatively, reacting very defensively about getting negative reviews, and now we're here, where books are being dedicated and people being called Nazis because they don't like a book, and like it's... So I just want to know, like, where is this like coming from? There's also someone shared a tweet of Matt Shaw's from like 2019 where Ginger Nuts of Horror, they do a lot of reviews on horror and stuff. They were just starting a discussion about like negative reviews, saying that some reviewers are worried about posting negative reviews because of the backlash they might get from the authors and their fans and stuff. And he tweeted it saying, if you can't take a negative review, you shouldn't be a writer, you shouldn't be in the industry. And wow, he really he really wasn't thinking about himself in that instance, was he? Like, when I'm worried that, like, when I start publishing books, that you know, something's gonna go wrong for me, am I gonna like piss people off, am I gonna do something wrong, this kind of makes me feel better, because I would have to develop like a really insidious like brain tumor or something that altered all of my personality in order to do anything like this. Like, it's so bizarre, it's crossing so many lines, it's so weird to be so this obsessed. And luckily, I haven't in a while, but I used to listen to the Blind Boy podcast. He's an Irish musician, comedy artist, and he also writes short stories. And when he first came out with his first short story book, he talked about it on his podcast, and he talked about how important it is for him to avoid all reviews, not only negative reviews but also positive reviews, because they literally should not impact what he's doing in any way. Obviously the negative reviews can make you feel bad about yourself or make you feel angry. The good reviews can make you feel like, oh, you're just naturally talented and you don't have to try anymore, you don't have to put in the same amount of work. So he just tries to shut out like all of the feedback that he can, that he doesn't need. And I really think that writers and authors and all artists really need to like do that more. I think that's like some of the best advice, because like it seems like we're always having the same conversation that like reviews are not for the writer, they're for readers. I don't know how many times I need to tell people that like I have bought books or been excited to read books based on negative reviews. When someone else says, I really didn't like this, it had this element, and this element, and I don't like that, and I think, hey, that's exactly what I do like, I'm gonna buy that book. Like, how many times do we have to keep having the same conversations? How many times do we have to keep saying, just leave reviewers out of it, leave them alone? If they are talking about the writing, if they're talking about the book, and they're giving their own honest opinion, that's it. That's what we're supposed to be doing. When you review a book, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be telling other potential readers what they may find in that book, whether they're gonna like it or not. Why do we keep seeing this? Why do authors keep pushing back so hard? And I know that I haven't published anything like that yet, and I haven't gotten any negative reviews, negative backlash on it. I know that you can put your entire heart and soul into something, and then it can at least seem like people are just tearing it to shreds on a whim. They're not even like spending too much time on it, whatever. And I'm sure that must really hurt and must really bother you, but like, what? And I also know that like there's always been a contention. There's always been contention between critics and writers from, 17, 1800s, whatever, all the way up to now. There's always been contention. I'm sure there were a few duels and fistfights back in the day. But today, with the internet and with social media, and you can just instantly reach millions of people, thousands of people so quickly and say such vitriolic things, and you can quite literally put people in danger, if you like dox them, or if you put their name and address online or whatever, or you could find people online, and it's just, I'm very baffled by it, and I really hope that this author, I hope, but I am not expecting very much. But I hope that someone around him, you would like it to be the other male authors that were in that group and stuff, or just other male authors in general, because clearly he's not going to listen to any female peers if he even imagines that there are peers. Like, another thing that I've realised recently is that without being openly misogynistic or without openly thinking of themselves that way, a lot of male authors and okay, I'm not saying that this person was misogynist, but I recently got an order for beta reading on Fiverr, and it was a full novel, and in the opening query about my services, this male author said that his audience, he's hoping, or he is assuming that his audience will be mainly men. So he was sort of implying to me that, like, I didn't need to look at it in, like, from a female perspective or whatever, or in a feminist way. I don't know. I was a little bit I was a little bit about that whenever he said it, but I was like, okay, that's fine. He assumes most of his readers are going to be male. That's fine. Let's see what the book's about. I actually really enjoyed the book, and it was fantasy. It was based on mythology, and I read the whole thing, and I was like, why wouldn't a woman read this? Why wouldn't he have female readers? I was really confused. I was like, did I miss something? Like, there were, like, sure, there were female characters who bad things happened to them, but there were male characters too. Like, there was nothing in it, and I had been, like, sort of set up from the beginning to be looking at it, like, critically, because he said that, and I was like, there's nothing here that, like, would mean that only men would read this or would enjoy it. And I added that into my feedback to him, but it is, I think, something that gets stuck in a lot of male authors' brains, and possibly particularly the ones who get feedback that they're not great at writing female characters, because they just do not think of women in an equal way. Genuinely, they don't think of them as, like, equal readers who read the same things that they do. They don't think of them as peers in, like, their writing community who may read their book. So they're only ever writing these female characters for men, which does lead to the inevitable over-sexualized bodies and, you know, very heteronormative swooning over mediocre men for, like, no reason that doesn't serve the character or the plot or anything like that. Obviously, I've read so many male authors that are fantastic at writing women, fantastic at writing all kinds of different people, but when it is bad, it's bad. And I remember when I first started reviewing books, someone asked me to review their collection of horror stories, and his actual plots and his, like, characters were great. Like, he would have male and female characters with motivations, flaws, weaknesses, strengths, all that, but the way that he described them was always like a porn star, basically. And I pointed that out to him, and he said that he didn't even notice. He didn't notice that every female character he had like a absolutely massive jugs and was always wearing the tiniest little silk shirt that she could barely keep closed. He didn't notice that because I feel like he was either only writing for himself or only writing for other men. And men always seem to assume, straight men at least, always seem to assume that that's what all men want and what all men like, when in actual fact all of us just want to read good stories, and see good characters, and it's just something I've been thinking about lately. Like, yeah, I feel like most people would probably assume, definitely outside the horror genre, most people would probably assume that most readers are men, especially of extreme horror. I'm sure that a lot of extreme horror writers might think that as well. But statistically we know that women read more than men. Like, so there are gonna be female readers, there are gonna be female reviewers, and we're gonna have opinions. And especially if you're writing women, or if you're writing any, like, if you're writing anything badly, we're gonna add it in our review. And like, because it happens so much and we're so tired of it when we keep seeing it, we're gonna bring it up. I'm hoping for everyone's sake that this gets resolved in some way. I hope that this reviewer like ends up, you know, feeling safer and doesn't feel like she's gonna be attacked constantly for her views or anything else. I really hope that someone in this writer's life points out to him that he needs to chill the fuck out, and he needs to sit back, get off social media and focus on writing, and not calling everyone woman he doesn't like Amber, and not calling people Nazis for no reason. There are actual ones out there, and they're not Nazis because they didn't like your book, you know. So that's my 4 a.m. 5:40 a.m. rant, and just utter bafflement, discussion-y thing. So if you have any like insights yourself into why authors keep reacting like this to like negative reviews, or like why you think this is happening, or like, is there anything that we can do to like make this better, to make it more acceptable to write negative reviews? I don't know, that's a weird thing for me to say. That's a weird sentence to even say, because like, it should never not be acceptable to write a negative review. If you're talking about the writing and the story and the book, you can say whatever you want, as long as that's like how you feel about it. I don't know, people are batshit these days, honestly, just bizarre. So anyway, that's what I've just been seeing all over TikTok recently, and every new little piece of information that comes out just makes it weirder and weirder. Thank you for joining me in this discussion. I definitely want to know what people think down below about this, and I shall see you in the next video.